All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about Neo4j and this whole world of connected data. It's a really cool piece of tech that's changing how we see value, not just in the data itself, but in how all that data is connected. So, what's the link here? It's a great question, right? They seem totally different. But the answer is that the connections, the relationships between the pieces of data, are often way more valuable than the individual pieces. And that's the big idea we're digging into today. So let's start with the fundamental challenge. In the world we live in now, everything is connected. Understanding those connections, who knows who, which product is on what truck, which bank account is secretly linked to another, that's become absolutely mission critical. Think about a classic spreadsheet or a standard database. They are fantastic for keeping things organized in neat rows and columns, but the moment you start asking really complex questions, like, show me all the friends of my friends who live in this city and also bought this product, well, those systems start to really chug along. They just weren't built for that kind of deep web-like searching. And this is exactly where a totally different kind of tool comes into the picture. To solve this connected data problem, you need something called a graph database. And Neo4j, it's one of the biggest and most powerful players in the game. So, how in the world does this work? Let's build the idea from the ground up. The very first piece of the puzzle is what's called a node. Just think of a node as any individual thing. A person, a product, a company, a bank account. It's the dot on the map. Okay, so we have our dots. Now, we need to connect them. And that's the second key piece, the relationship. Now, in a graph database, this isn't just some vague link. It's a core part of the structure. It has a name, a direction. It's a direct, physical connection. And that is the real magic. And finally, to add all the rich detail and context, we have properties. These are just simple little bits of information, key value pairs, that you can attach to both the nodes and the relationships. So a person node can have a name and an age, and that purchased relationship, it could have a property for the exact date of the sale. See? Simple. So we've got our nodes, relationships, and properties, but how does that turn into a super high-performance system? Well, the real power of Neo4j is in how it stores and gets you that connected data. You're going to love this. The concept is called index-free adjacency. Instead of doing what old databases do, searching through giant tables with complex joins, Neo4j gives every single node a direct pointer to its neighbors. The analogy is perfect. It's like having your friend's number on speed dial, instead of having to look it up in a massive phone book every single time you want to call. It's just incredibly fast. And you can really see the difference on this slide. Look at the left with SQL. You have to think in terms of tables and how to join them together. But on the right with Cypher, Neo4j's query language, get this. It looks like you're drawing a picture of the pattern you want to find. You're literally saying, find me a person who is friends with another person. It's so intuitive because it matches exactly how you draw it on a whiteboard. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, but where is this stuff actually making a difference? Let's look at some powerful, real-world examples where this tech is having a huge impact. First up, a huge one, fraud detection. Criminals, as you can imagine, are masters at creating these complex, hidden networks to try and stay invisible. With Neo4j, you can map out all these things, accounts, credit cards, devices, IP addresses, as nodes, and then just fly through the connections in real time. You can instantly spot patterns like, hey, wait a minute, these 20 accounts are all using the same device. You start seeing entire fraud rings that are practically impossible to spot when your data is just sitting in disconnected tables. Next up is something we all see every single day, recommendation engines. You ever wonder how a website just knows what you might want to buy next? Well, odds are there's a graph database working its magic behind the scenes. It's all about finding patterns in that network. Companies build a huge graph of users, products, and what they do, like viewed or purchased. Then they can ask super simple questions like, people who bought this exact same laptop, what else did they buy? It's fast, it's powerful, and it's what leads to those scarily accurate recommendations we all get. Now, it's really important to be clear here. Neo4j is an amazing tool, but it's not a silver bullet that solves every single data problem out there. So let's take a balanced look at when you should and maybe shouldn't use it. So here's the bottom line. You have to choose the right tool for the job. If your data is really well structured, like a basic inventory list, a traditional database is probably still your best bet. But if your main challenge is all about understanding networks, finding hidden patterns, and following long chains of connections, that is where a graph database like Neo4j absolutely shines. And of course, no tool is perfect, right? There are things to keep in mind. Thinking in graphs and learning the Cypher language is a different skill from good old SQL. And hey, if your data just doesn't have that many connections to begin with, using a graph database might honestly be overkill. It's all about matching the tool to your actual problem. So, after all that, what is the one big idea you should walk away with? It really all comes down to the simple but profound power of connections. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It's about a shift in how you think. You stop looking at data as just a list of individual things, and you start asking a new question. How are all these things connected? Once you can answer that, you unlock a whole new dimension of insight. And that's the final thought I really want to leave you with. Think about your world, your business, your projects, your community. What hidden connections, what invisible networks are just sitting there waiting to be discovered? With tools like Neo4j, you now have a way to find them. Thanks for tuning in.